Hello and welcome to Sleep Cove with Christopher Fitton, the place to come for a great night's sleep. Please listen to this recording in a place where it is safe to go to sleep. Tonight's story is The Hazelnut Child by Andrew Lang. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, please check out Sleep Cove Premium by going to sleepcove.com/support. And let's begin. The Hazelnut Child by Andrew Lang. There was once upon a time a couple who had no children, and they prayed heaven every day to send them a child, though it were no bigger than a hazelnut. At last heaven heard their prayer and sent them a child exactly the size of a hazelnut, and it never grew an inch. The parents were very devoted to the little creature and nursed and tended it carefully. Their tiny son, too, was as clever as he could be, and so sharp and sensible that all the neighbours marvelled over the wise things he said and did. When the Hazelnut Child was 15 years old and was sitting one day in an eggshell on the table beside his mother, she turned to him and said, "You are now 15 years old, and nothing can be done with you. What do you intend to be?" "A messenger," answered the Hazelnut Child. Then his mother burst out laughing and said, "What an idea! You a messenger? Why, your little feet would take an hour to go the distance an ordinary person could do in a minute." But the Hazelnut Child replied, "Nevertheless, I mean to be a messenger. Just send me a message, and you'll see that I shall be back in next to no time." So his mother said, "Very well. Go to your aunt in the neighbouring village and fetch me a comb." The Hazelnut Child jumped quickly out of the eggshell and ran into the street. Here he found a man on horseback who was just setting out for the neighbouring village. He crept up the horse's leg, sat down under the saddle, and began to pinch the horse and to prick it with a pin. The horse plunged and reared, and they set off at a hard gallop, which it continued in spite of its rider's efforts to stop it. When they reached the village, the Hazelnut Child left off pricking the horse, and the poor tired creature pursued its way at a snail's pace. The Hazelnut Child took advantage of this and crept down the horse's leg. Then he ran to his aunt and asked her for a comb. On the way home he met another rider and did the return journey exactly the same way. When he handed his mother the comb that his aunt had given him, she was amazed and asked, "But how did you manage to get it back so quickly?" "Ah, mother," he replied, "you see I was quite right when I said I knew a messenger was the profession for me." His father, too, possessed a horse, which he often used to take out into the fields to graze. One day he took the Hazelnut Child with him. At midday the father turned to his small son and said, "Stay here and look after the horse. I must go home and give your mother a message, but I shall be back soon." When his father had gone, a robber passed by and saw the horse grazing without anyone watching it, for of course he could not see the Hazelnut Child hidden in the grass. So he mounted the horse and rode away. But the Hazelnut Child who was the most active little creature, jumped up the horse's tail and began to bite it on the back, enraging the creature to such an extent that it paid no attention to the direction the robber tried to make it go in, but galloped straight home. The father was much astonished when he saw a stranger riding his horse, but the hazelnut child climbed down quickly and told him all that had happened, and his father had the robber arrested at once and put into prison. One autumn, when the hazelnut child was 20 years old, he said to his parents, "Farewell, my dear father and mother. I am going to set out into the world, and as soon as I have become rich, I will return home to you." The parents laughed at the little man's words, but did not believe him for a moment. In the evening, the hazelnut child crept onto the roof, where some storks had built their nest. The storks were fast asleep, and he climbed onto the back of the father stork and bound a silk cord round the joint of one of its wings. Then he crept among its soft downy feathers and fell asleep. The next morning the storks flew towards the south, for winter was approaching. The hazelnut child flew through the air on the stork's back, and when he wanted to rest, he bound his silk cord onto the joint of the bird's other wing, so that it could not fly any farther. In this way he reached the continent of Africa, where the storks took up their abode close to the capital. When the people saw the hazelnut child, they were much astonished and took him with the stork to the king of the country. The king was delighted with the little creature and kept him always beside him, and he grew so fond of the little man that he gave him a diamond 4 times as big as himself. The hazelnut child fastened the diamond firmly under the stork's neck with a ribbon, and when he saw that the other storks were getting ready for their northern flight, he untied the silk cord from his stork's wings, and away they went, getting nearer home every minute. At length the hazelnut child came to his native village, where he undid the ribbon from the stork's neck, and the diamond fell to the ground. He covered it first with sand and stones, and he ran to get his parents, so they might carry the treasure home, for he himself was not able to lift the great diamond. So the hazelnut child and his parents lived in happiness and prosperity. The end.